The Yellow Depths of Miskatonic. My name is Thomas Hale, and if these pages are ever found after I am gone, let them serve as warning rather than memoir. I write them now in a narrow room on the top floor of a decaying boarding house in Boston's North End, where the walls sweat with damp and the floorboards creak like the ribs of some ancient ship. The single oil lamp before me throws a jaundiced circle across the page. Beyond it, the darkness presses close, and in that darkness I sometimes glimpse the faint outline of a pallid mask hovering just out of reach. My left hand trembles as I write, the same hand that now bears faint yellow tracery beneath the skin, pulsing in time with a rhythm no earthly clock could measure. It began in the autumn of 1928, when the leaves of New England turned the color of dried blood, and the air carried the first sharp bite of coming winter. I was then 37, a private investigator of modest reputation who had made his living in Boston's fog-bound streets, trailing unfaithful husbands, recovering stolen heirlooms, occasionally extricating foolish young men from blackmail schemes too sordid for the police to touch. My office was a single cramped room above a tobacconist's shop on Tremont Street. The rent was paid in arrears more often than not, but the work kept me fed and the bottle half full. On the morning of October 15th, a telegram arrived. Terse, expensive, sent from Arkham. It read, "Thomas Hale, stop urgent matter concerning my daughter, Eleanor Grant, student, Miskatonic University. Stop 4 girls vanished in past month. Stop police useless. Stop come at once. Stop expenses and fee guaranteed. Stop Regional Grant." I had heard of Reginald Grant, textile magnate, old money, member of clubs whose doors never opened to men like me. His daughter's name meant nothing then, but the fee mentioned in the second telegram that arrived an hour later was enough to make me close the office early, pack a valise, and board the evening train north. The journey to Arkham was long and uncomfortable. The train rattled through towns whose names sounded like forgotten incantations: Bolton, Dunwich, Dean's Corners, and the landscape grew steadily bleaker. Low hills cloaked in dying foliage, rivers the color of old pewter, skies heavy with clouds that never quite broke into rain. I sat by the window, smoking cigarettes I could ill afford, and tried to ignore the growing unease that settled in my stomach like cold lead. Arkham was not a place one visited for pleasure. Even the name carried a faint, unplaceable dread. I arrived at dusk. The station platform was deserted save for a single porter who eyed me with suspicion before vanishing into the gloom. A cab waited at the curb, black, ancient, drawn by a horse whose ribs showed beneath its hide. The driver, an old man with a face like cracked leather, spoke only to confirm the address. The Grant residence on High Street, overlooking the University Hill. The house was a looming Gothic pile of gray stone, ivy-choked and silent. Mr. Grant received me in a library whose shelves groaned under volumes of theology and forgotten philosophy. He was tall, gaunt, silver-haired, dressed in impeccable black. His eyes were red-rimmed, his hands unsteady as he poured brandy with a decanter that clinked against the glass. "My daughter, Eleanor," he began without preamble, "was last seen entering the restricted stacks of the Orne Library on the night of September 12th. She never returned. 3 others followed in the same manner: Abigail Thorpe on the 28th, Lydia Carver on October 3rd, Catherine Wells on the 10th. All classics or metaphysics students, all brilliant, all changed in the weeks before they vanished. He slid a photograph across the desk. A young woman of 22, dark-haired, serious-eyed, with the faint smile of someone who had read too many old books. Behind her eyes, even in this frozen image, I thought I detected a shadow. Not grief, not fear, but something colder and older. They spoke of the angles that are not angles, Grant continued, of a book in the vault, the true Necronomicon, not the censored fragments, of stars being right. The police dismiss it as hysteria. I know better. I found this on her mirror the morning after she disappeared. He handed me a small square of blotting paper. Upon it, drawn in faint yellow chalk that seemed to shift when I tilted the page, was a sigil. 3 curving lines intersecting in ways that hurt the eye to follow. The yellow sign. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the room's temperature. "I will pay you $500 now," Grant said, "and 500 more when you bring me answers, or proof that no answers exist in this world." I accepted. There was no other choice. The next morning, I walked to Miskatonic University under a sky the color of bruised flesh. The campus loomed on its hill like some cyclopean sentinel, gray towers stabbing upward, ivy like veins across the stone, windows that stared back without blinking. Students moved between buildings in hushed groups, their faces pale, their conversations falling silent when strangers passed. My first visit was to Professor Ambrose Morley, head of medieval metaphysics. His office smelled of mildew, candle wax, and ozone. He was gaunt, 60, eyes burning with feverish light. "The girl sought the gate," he whispered, "not the one guarded by Yog-Sothoth. Another? Hastur hungers for Carcosa's return. The Deep Ones hunger for Rulea's rise. Their hungers clash beneath our feet, and the girls were caught between." He pressed a scrap of paper into my hand. The same sigil. Then he fell silent and would say no more. That night, I broke into the Orne Library. The campus was deserted after 10 o'clock. Fog had rolled in from the Miskatonic, thick and clammy, carrying the faint reek of fish rot and river mud. I circled to the east service door, coaxed the lock open, and slipped inside. The air changed at once, colder, heavier, scented with old paper, mildew, and something metallic. Electric bulbs and iron cages gave sickly yellow light that flickered with every draft. I descended the narrow iron staircase into the restricted vault. The walls grew damp. The bulbs grew fewer. My lantern became the only steady light. The aisles twisted in impossible angles. At the 9th stack, a section of ancient stone wall pulsed faintly with glyphs. When I pressed my palm to it, the stone tore open with a wet, ripping sound, exhaling cold river air. Beyond lay the true chamber, vast, impossible, its ceiling lost in shadow. At the center yawned a circular tidal pool connected to the river below. 9 black candles burned with green flame. The Necronomicon lay open on a basalt pedestal, pages turning by themselves, and the rites had already begun. On one side of the pool, the Deep Ones, 9 hybrids in dripping scales, had bound Catherine Wells upon living coral. Their leader raised a black coral knife. "I, Dagon, Hydra," he croaked, "accept this vessel." The blade opened her throat. Blood jetted into the pool. From the depths rose a colossal shadow, tentacles of translucent jelly, lifting the convulsing girl, dragging her under. Her scream became a gurgling hymn of submission. Across the pool, a Brotherhood of the Yellow sign waited. 5 figures in tattered yellow silk, faces hidden behind pallid bone masks. Their leader traced the yellow sign in the air. Reality tore. Yellow threads of light unwound from Catherine's soul, spiraling upward into the masks. Her empty husk sank, still smiling in rapture. Then the war erupted. I fled as claws and glyphs clashed. The chamber folded around me. Water rose around my ankles. My reflection showed gills flickering at my throat for an instant. I burst into the main reading room as the tower clock struck midnight. All lights were out. Only green candle glow lit the stacks, and in that glow, students and professors walked trance-like toward the hidden door, chanting in unison. I ran through the fog-choked streets of Arkham until my lungs burned. Since that night, the visions of Carcosa come without mercy. I stand upon fractured marble balconies overlooking Lake Halley, its surface a mirror of dead mercury. Twin black-veined suns sink into the horizon, bleeding leprous yellow light. Black stars hang motionless, forming the yellow sign again and again. Tatters of silk flap from impossible towers while voices recite. Along the shore the cloud waves break, and the twin suns sink behind the lake. Strange is the night where black stars rise. My shadow detaches and walks ahead, whispering secrets that make my mind bleed. The deep ones answer with cruder torments. Salt water seeps from my pores. I hear them croaking beneath the floorboards, promising the clean cold of the abyss. 3 nights ago, I returned to Arkham, revolver loaded with bullets etched with the yellow sign, and a slender dagger taken from a dead yellow brother, its blade carved with the same sigil, burning sickly when moonlight touches it. They were waiting on the old wharf. 6 hybrids rose from the black water. Their leader pointed a trident. The surface thing bears both marks. Bring him to Dagon. I drew the revolver. The first shot took the leader in the chest. The yellow sign exploded inside him. Yellow threads burst from his gills as he screamed and collapsed. 2 more shots dropped hybrids in bursts of acid fire and crumbling scales. They charged. Claws raked my arm. One seized my wrist, dragging me toward the river. I dropped the revolver, drew the dagger, and drove it under the creature's jaw. The sign blazed. Yellow light poured from its eyes and gills. It crumbled into wet ash and glowing filaments. The last 3 hesitated. I advanced, slashing. Each wound vomited Carcosa's fire. One by one they fell, shrieking the name Haster as they dissolved. A vision struck me harder than any before. I stood on a Carcosa balcony, the pallid mask inches from my face. A velvet voice whispered, "Well fought, Thomas Hale. The king is pleased. Come home." I screamed and drove the dagger into the wharf planks. the vision shattered. I survived the ambush, but survival is only another kind of damnation. Now the war follows me. The Deep Ones send hybrids through Boston alleys. The Brotherhood leaves yellow envelopes with single lines from the forbidden play. My left hand sometimes traces the sign without my will. Yet I continue. I keep a ledger of names, places, weaknesses. I have learned of an original copy of the King in Yellow hidden in Miskatonic's forgotten wing. I have heard whispers of a Deep One outpost beneath Innsmouth, reachable only when the stars are wrong. I still breathe. I still fight. I still walk the narrow line between Carcosa and the abyss. The gate widens. The masks descend. The scales rise. And Thomas Hale, half in Carcosa, half in the abyss, is still moving, armed with revolver, dagger, and a madness that may yet become my greatest weapon. The next chapter is already writing itself. I only hope I am the one holding the pen. Thomas Hale, Boston /Arkham /Carcosa. Entry continues.